What's up, you guys? American, welcome back to my channel. No, you grow up. So today's video is going to be an opening video, and it's going to be all NECA TMNT Toon figures. So this pretty much covers all the Toon figures that have been released this year, minus one 2-pack. I did not go in on the Space Adventure Donnie and the Samurai Mikey set, and once we get into this video, I'm going to explain why I didn't go in on that set, and kind of my thoughts on this line going forward. But I can talk about all this stuff while we're actually looking at these figures, so I'll stop making you look at my ugly face, and we can check these figures out. Alright, you guys, so I got everything opened, and before we start talking about these figures individually, I want to talk about the NECA TMNT Toon line kind of as a whole right now. So outside these figures, we had the Space Adventure Donatello and the Samurai Michelangelo 2-pack. We had the Space Adventure Usagi Ultimate. And then I guess if you really wanted to, you could argue that the Year of the Rabbit 4-pack is part of the Toon line, but I really consider that just to be like a solo Usagi thing, to where I consider like the Samurai figure and the Space Adventure Usagi to be more NECA Toon line, even though they never really existed in that cartoon. And the main thing that all the figures that have been released in the last year have in common is that there is not any original characters outside of the Evil Rex 1. And even the Evil Rex 1 is just a ton of reuse. He has different eyes and different deco, but that's really it. It is essentially the same figure as the original Rex 1. And even though I like every single figure that you're looking at right here, it is just a bummer to me that we did not get any original characters, because I've always said that that's kind of where the magic of the Toon line is. I like that we get C and D list characters, and it's kind of a bummer that it looks like they're going to start to get away from that and kind of start to do their own thing, or either go in a safe direction and just start putting out a ton of turtles. And I feel like they're kind of falling into the same exact trap that the Playmates line did back in the 90s. They got away from doing original characters in the main line and just started focusing all on the sublines. And I really liked the sublines as a kid. That was most of the figures that I have, but I understand why it kind of might have pushed it in a direction that put the line in a downward spiral. And without a doubt, Steam was kind of dying down on this line to begin with. Like, for the last couple years, figures have just been easier and easier to get, but I am just bummed that it's going in this different direction. I didn't go in on the Space Adventure Donatello and the Samurai Mikey 2-pack because it's just has nothing to do with the cartoon other than the figures are just done in that style. And I know immediately, right dead center here, we have this Usagi who is also not in the cartoon, but with Usagi figures, it's just so cool that we're getting so much Usagi stuff that I'm absolutely going to suck all that stuff up, because it's not like Usagi gets things made the way that Turtles get things made. I know NECA's really started to focus on the three-headed dragon that is the comic book line. They had the Mirage figures, the Ronin figures, and then the Archie figures. And without a doubt, they're putting the most work into those figures. Like, there's no question about it. It is a bummer that what I've always considered to be my favorite line, the main line that I collect, is definitely in its twilight. They're finally starting to get out these big ticket items for the Toon line, and I feel like that's another good indication that it's starting to wind down. Like, they're giving us these final pieces. We finally got our turtle vans in hand. They've released one section of the sewer layer, and they've put another one up for pre-order. And I feel like they're putting out those big items to kind of put a cap on this line. Does that mean I think they're just going to end it and stop doing it completely? No, I do think they're going to go in the direction that they're going in, with a lot more turtle variations, maybe some of their own original stuff. And again, that's cool if you want it. If you want to keep going with that stuff, I'm not knocking you at all, but it's just not for me. And honestly, I'm kind of happy with where I am. And if they give me a Tempestra, for me, that would kind of really be the capper on the line, and after that, I would be satisfied. Like, that really is like the last holdout figure that I really, really want. Yes, there are a couple other random characters that I would love to get, but Tempestra feels like the one that's just missing, that I feel like would be a bummer if they didn't put her out. Now, just because I said all that stuff I just said, doesn't mean I'm not happy with this group of figures. In fact, I don't think there's a single bad figure in this lineup, and I was actually kind of surprised by that. You know, there definitely wasn't the excitement of getting new characters for my display, but all these figures are really good. And just looking at these figures from an aesthetic standpoint, I think they are some of the best that have ever been done in the Toon line. Like, for opening all these Toon figures, there's hardly any problems with paint, and that's very rare for the Toon line. Usually it's like riddled with sloppy paint, especially on the black lines. Now, my one major gripe for opening up all these Toon figures at the same time is it felt like I was opening up Toon figures from like 2 or 3 years ago, and by that I mean they were all very stiff and very tight. I had to blast every single figure here with a hairdryer to get it to move, and in some instances, like with Casey, there were some things that I couldn't even just undo safely with heat. And I'll talk about that a little bit more when we look at that figure. But the tight joints really were my only major complaint for these figures. And I really thought NECA had kind of figured that out. I feel like the last couple years of figures haven't been as bad in that department. Like, I feel like most of the figures I got last year from Holothon, I got to move pretty easily even without heat. So it's weird that all these figures were as stiff as they were, because I do feel like NECA has just generally been getting better about that, but this wave kind of made me eat those words. So now that I've given you like my general thoughts on all these figures, we're going to break them down into 3 different groups and start taking a deeper look at them. Alright, so first up we're going to take a look at all the non-turtle figures. And like I mentioned earlier, add in Space Adventure Usagi, and this is all of the non-turtle figures that have been released in the last year. I think the only thing that's been showed off that we still haven't gotten is that giant size Krang, and that's it. That is it for non-Turtles characters, which I know I just keep saying over and over, but it still just seems insane to me. Like I mentioned earlier, there isn't really a dud in this group, and I'm kind of surprised because honestly, I wasn't really too excited to get another battle damaged foot soldier. I have the Slash one and the Bash one from the original Casey pack and the original April pack, and I don't really love those figures by any means. I don't even have those figures just standing like the rest of them. I just have them laying down in my one like action display scene that I have in my entire display. So just like those 2 before it, I wasn't really hyped for that. But that being said, this figure is a lot better than I thought it was going to be. He's definitely the best of the 3 like battle damaged foot soldiers, and the detail inside his head is really cool, and I feel like that's what sets him apart. Like just seeing the insides and the guts like that looks a lot cooler than the one that's like just slashed in half, because you don't really see much outside that like one red cord that's holding them together. And for a foot soldier, he's actually put together pretty well. So I don't know if anyone's had the same experiences with me, but out of the 11 Ultimate Foot Soldiers that I've got, they all have very terrible leg joints. Their legs pretty much pop off anytime you try to pose them. They're all really weak in the hips, and they're definitely some of the worst figures in the NECA Toon line objectively. Like, they're just very poorly made, and it sucks that the one army builder, I guess they've done a few army builders at this point, but the original army builder that you'd have for this line is just one of the worst figures. But that being said, this one is definitely a lot better in the QC department. Like, I really have 0 complaints with this one objectively. Like I said, it's just not a figure that I was like super excited to get by any means, but it was still a lot better than I thought it was going to be once I actually got it in hands. And I don't know if I want to rebuy a bunch of foot soldiers if they ever were to re-release them, but these ones definitely feel a lot better. So I don't know, we'll see what happens when that time comes. Maybe I'll sell off all my old ones and get new ones if they just feel a little bit better. So just a figure that surprised me a little bit, and definitely has much better detail than I would have expected, and definitely a lot tighter paint than I'm used to with the NECA Toon line. So the one character I'll never complain about how many times they do releases on is Usagi, because like I said, I consider him to be a part of the Toon line, but at the same time, I kind of collect Usagi stuff independently. Like, he does have his own shelf in my collection that's part of my Toon display. But up until now, we haven't really gotten a whole lot of Usagi figures. Like, there's been a couple that have been out here and there. I had that one that was done by Arctic Toys a while back, and I have one in package and out of package. The NECA Toon line has blessed us with a lot of different Usagi figures, and that's been pretty cool. Now, do I wish they'd start doing other characters like Jen or Yukichi? Yes, absolutely. I would love it if they started doing more side characters for Usagi, but I will take any Usagi figure they give me regardless. And objectively speaking, this one is just very well done. I have not opened up my Year of the Rabbit 4-pack, and that one definitely looks a little bit better and a little bit more exciting. I like the deco on that one more. But at this point, I don't know if I need multiples of the same Usagi figure on my shelf. So for now, this one will be good enough just to have out on display. The major problem I do have with this figure, though, is he only comes with one sword, which is weird. He just comes with a katana and not the Wazakashi or Wakazashi. I can never remember if the K or the Z comes first. And he also doesn't come with scabbards for his sword or a belt to hold them in, which is kind of a bummer. I feel like the things that should be mandatory with any figures are his 2 swords, the scabbards, and a belt to hold them in, because he just doesn't feel right without the swords. He does come with some other weapons, like a battle axe and like a bigger like broadsword, but for me it's hard to not put the katana in his hand, even when they do give us all those other options. But that's really my only major gripe when it comes to this figure. He's just another solid Usagi figure, and like I said, I will take all the Usagi figures they give us. So definitely a cool figure. Just wish it would have came with those extra accessories that just make an Usagi figure to me. So this is a figure that I was very excited for. I'm a very, very big Casey fan, as you can probably tell by my logo. He's my favorite non-turtle character in the TMNT universe for sure. And I really like the animated series version of Casey. Yeah, he's a lot different than the other ones. He's not really, I mean, I guess he's an ally of the Turtles in a way, but he also forgets who they are sometimes. And I just like that he's an absolute maniac psychopath. It is just really fun for the cartoon. And the episode that this version of Casey comes from is absolutely ridiculous. So he goes in for a job interview dressed exactly like this. Business suit, face mask on, weapons in the golf bag, and he gets the job. And it's so absurd and ridiculous, and it's just what makes that old cartoon great. And it's cool that they did give us a brand new head sculpt and stuff for him. It's not just a rehash of the original one. I'll do a side-by-side here in a minute, but this head sculpt definitely does have some improvements. It looks a lot newer, and the old one definitely shows its age a little bit compared to this one. Like, if you just look at these guys side by side, there's no question which one's objectively better in the head sculpt department. And I feel like they are probably going to start coming around on all the characters and redoing them a lot. I guarantee Shredder will be on deck here soon, and I bet Casey probably won't be far behind. I've seen people swap out this head sculpt for that one, give this Casey a little bit more edge, but I'm going to keep the newer head sculpt on this one just because I like to keep the old one the way it is. Like, it's a classic figure. It's one of the first ones that came out in the line, and it was really hard to get when he first came out. Like, this figure is just really cool. It's one of the only ones that I had to buy online early. I had really good luck finding all the figures that were really hard to find, like the April 2-pack. And even when I got him online, it was before the prices started skyrocketing. Like, I think I got the unopened 2-pack for like 80 or 90 bucks or something like that. So he is one of my favorite figures in the Toon line, but this new one is just objectively way better. So my biggest negative that I do have with this figure is that I cannot get his arms off. His jacket comes off, and you can put on these regular just white dress shirt arms and give him a different look, but I cannot get these arms off. Like, I feel like I'm gonna rip them apart here at the swivel joint, and it's just not worth it for me because A, this is the way I'm going to keep him the entire time I have him, and it's just not worth breaking these arms to change them for a review. So I'm sure lots of other people have done that. You can go check out their videos and see what he looks like with the alternate version, but I'm going to keep him with the suit jacket on anyway. So like I said, I'm kind of bummed about it, but at the same time, like all accessories, they're just going to go in a bag, and I'm never going to see them again anyway. I'm pretty sure I mentioned this earlier as well. I feel like last year it seemed like NECA was kind of getting their shit together with their quality control as far as like their articulation goes. Like, their articulation is not great by any means, but I feel like the joints started moving a lot easier than they did in the past. And like I said, every single figure from this wave or whatever you want to call it, I've really had to heat up to get it to move. And like I said, I tried heating up those shoulders to get it out, and I just feel like it's going to pull apart there, and it's just not worth it to me. So kind of a bummer, but doesn't really take away how much I really like this figure. It is a really cool figure. I'm just really glad we got this ridiculous variant of Casey. Probably a good chance you're going to see him in my top 10 for the year. Alright, so taking a look at the big boys here. New York's Shiniest is one of my top 10 favorite episodes from the original series. All the episodes I had on VHS are pretty much all my top 10 episodes. I probably had like 12 VHSs, so most of those had 2 episodes on them. I think the Burger King ones only have 1 episode, maybe I'm wrong, but all the rest of them are all double episodes. So there's like 20 or so episodes that I just have like an extreme affinity for, and this one ranks even very high amongst those. I watched that one a lot. Like, the sound effects and everything for that one are just burned in my brain. Cool that we not only have Rex 1, but we have the evil Rexes now as well. Like I said earlier, he's really the only original character from the series that we got this year. And again, technically this figure is like 95% reuse. So even though it is an original character, it's not really giving us a lot of originality, if you know what I mean. Comparing him to the original Rex, like I said, they are pretty much exactly the same figure, just with tweaks to the head sculpt to make it a little bit different. But other than that, pretty much identical when it comes to the sculpt. Even if we take a look inside the chest here, all the same stuff going on. Just realized I haven't opened up my Rex in a while. His hinge starting to get a little bit crappy, so bad job there, NECA. So even though it is pretty much just a repaint, it's still a figure that I'm really excited to have. His arms are definitely all slotted in slightly different, so I feel like this joint right here is the only one that actually looks the way it should look, and all the other ones are kind of just like offset, and they kind of just bow out a little bit. Both their right arms stick out a little bit more than the left arm, and again, it's one of those things, not the biggest deal, but it's enough to bug me, so I wish they would have tightened that up a little bit. But other than that, I don't really have a lot of complaints. When I'm actually looking at him on camera here, I can kind of see this like glare with the paint that I can't really see that well, honestly, if I'm just looking at the figure, so it's weird that that gets picked up more on camera than it does to the naked eye when I'm just looking at it. I'd like to get 2 more of these guys, but there's just so much crap coming out right now, and he's $50 a pop, so I mean, $50 for an army builder is getting up there. I've done it with a couple things, and it's definitely not something I want to do regularly, so if I only ever have 2, that's enough, but I would like to get 4. If it wasn't a character from an episode I like so much, I'd definitely just be satisfied with 2, but because it's one of my favorite episodes, it's one that I've seen far and away the most, I would like to kind of make it a special thing inside my display, so time will tell if I get more, but these guys are really cool. I really like that original Rex one, and I like these guys a lot too. Alright, so next up we're going to take a look at the Pizza Club Turtles, and I'm not going to spend a whole lot of time on these guys because they are literally nothing new outside of their accessories. And speaking of accessories, I feel like the reason they called these the Pizza Club Turtles instead of the Ultimate Turtles is because they're surprisingly lacking in accessories. Like, yeah, they do come with a few big things each that are kind of bangers, and a couple of them come with little secondary characters and stuff like that, but outside of that, they come with a surprisingly low amount of things for a single pack figure. Now for me, the huge sell of these figures was that whirling bow staff effect for Donatello. I'm going to be 100% honest, that's the only reason I opened these turtles, because I wanted to use that bow staff, and I couldn't just open one of them without opening the other 3, and I know that's a psychotic reason to open 4 figures, but I'm just being honest with you, that's why I opened these figures. And getting back to the lack of accessories that they come with, the fact that Michelangelo doesn't come with 2 whirling nunchucks, which he absolutely should have for a single pack figure, he doesn't even come with a single whirling nunchuck accessory, which is very strange. It's really weird that we haven't gotten a Mikey up to this point that does come with 2 whirling nunchuck effects, so that's kind of a bummer that he didn't come with those, and I really expected those to be in there. So a little bit of behind the scenes, I took like about a 3-week break while making this video, so these figures have just been sitting here, and Raph's got a little bit cold here, and I can't seem to get this head off comfortably, and I don't want to pull the pin, and honestly, I don't want to fucking break out the hair dryer, so I didn't change out his head for this review, but this is the stock head that he does come with, and like all the modern turtles, it is one that you can switch the mouth and the eyes around for, which is really cool, and I'm going to talk about something else related to that here in a little bit. I do like this dough effect that he comes with, and I haven't figured out what I want to do with these guys long term. So basically what I end up doing with the Donatello is kind of going to determine what I do with the rest of these guys, so I kind of want to use their secondary looks if I can like this. Like I do like the Baker suit on Mikey, I like this dough head on Raph. I honestly don't remember exactly what episode this came from, so if anybody could let me know that would be great. It is just a really stupid head sculpt, and I do like it a lot. But like I said, I have another display option in mind that I might go with, and we'll talk about that in a sec. Alright, so when I said these figures were nothing new, I really meant it. He is exactly identical to these other 2 figures here, so I have the Turtles in Disguise 4-pack Leonardo here, the glossy version. I don't have the matte one. Side tangent, one of the biggest regrets of my collecting life is I was holding a matte set in my hand at a Target when they were long sold out. This random Target that I went to had 6 of them, and I didn't get one, and I really regret not getting those. But anyway, back to the main point here. And then I also have the Style Guide 4-pack Leonardo over here. And like I said, other than the deco, they're exactly the same figures. There's nothing new here as far as the mold is concerned. As you can see, comparing the Turtles in Disguise one to the Pizza Club one, they are slightly different colors. I know this one is glossed and this one is matte, but the new one is a little bit darker, so even if I had the matte ones, I'm assuming they'd probably be closer to this color. So I mean, you could switch the heads and the faces around on these if you wanted to, but if you're really anal, the color difference probably would be enough to bother you on these. And of these 3 versions, I actually prefer the Style Guide Turtles. I know they're not actually as accurate to the cartoon as the darker colored ones are, but just from a toy perspective, I feel like they just pop a little bit more, and I like that more neon green. From the original set, I have the Style Guide ones too. I only have the one original Leonardo and Shredder 2-pack. Outside of that, I got the second ones that came around for my actual turtles. So my first turtles that I ever had were the Style Guide ones, so that might be another reason why I have a little bit more love for those. But there's definitely nothing wrong with the dark ones, and I know the majority of people probably do like the darker ones better. So I know some people might be annoyed that they do keep re-releasing the same turtle, but I honestly don't mind it, because One, it gives you the option of getting the new ones when they come out. You definitely don't need them. I just got it because I have that sickness and I have to get shit that comes out. And that's why I'm also really proud of myself for passing on the Space Adventure and the Samurai Adventure 2-pack. But I feel like these turtles should always be on the shelf. I feel like if you have a line, your main characters always need to be available. And I feel like NECA should always have a regular set of turtles on the shelf, so that way anybody getting into the line at any time can go to the store and grab a set of turtles to anchor their collection. So even though these figures are redundant, I still appreciate that NECA is doing that for new people, and I definitely think it's a good thing to keep releasing the same mold until it gets played out. So again, just taking a look at the Leo here, he's done pretty well. All these figures do have pretty good paint applications, which is nice. The last figures you ever want to look crappy are your turtles. Leo's alternate head is this red-eyed one, which is from, I'm pretty sure it's a season 7 episode, and I want to say they're actually robots. Like, I think there's a robot version of Mikey and Leo that have these red eyes, so it's technically a different character at the end of the day if you really think about it. You actually do get a secondary character here, and it's kind of a bummer they didn't do that with Mike since they both had that version. I don't think there was a Donatello and a Raphael, I could be wrong, but I at least remember those two having this like red-eyed robot version. I really like this baker's outfit that Michelangelo comes with. The one thing I wish they would start doing though is making pizzas that have pans underneath, because as you can see here, he's just fisting this pizza, which is never something that could happen in real life. It'd be flopping and making a mess everywhere. So it'd be cool if NECA would start putting pans underneath some of the pizzas, and this guy would have been the perfect one to start with for that. So like I said, star of the show here, this whirling bow staff accessory, and this thing is fucking amazing. Like, it is hard to believe nobody had done this up to this point. And I hope it's something that comes standard now. I know it's a really big accessory, it's a lot of plastic, but this just adds so much to a Donatello. Like, usually Raph is my favorite figure, but out of these four, it's definitely the Donatello just because of this accessory. Just like with the Mezco turtles, I really like that Michelangelo because he came with 2 whirling nunchuck accessories. So the hand that holds this is a little bit different than the other hand, so I'm hoping that I can make this fit into my style guide Donatello, so I can put him in my one display that I have that it actually is like a scene. I have all the turtles fighting the Mousers and the Roadkill Rodneys, and I have the damaged foot soldiers in that display. So I'm hoping I can use this accessory with the style guide Donatello, and if I can't, I'm going to move these turtles into that display and have them set up in that action display, so I won't be using any of these secondary looks. But if I can make this bow staff fit into the style guide turtles, what I would like to do is display all of them with the alternate heads from the Punk Turtles. So I know I'm kind of jumping the gun here. These came with the other turtles, but I want to talk about them now because it's really cool that they did hit the paint right on these, and the colors do match up really well on these. So it's cool that they gave us these alternate heads that I'm definitely not going to use on my other turtles. I'll talk about those in a little bit. So it's cool that I will find a use for these heads because, again, I don't want to just have the same turtles all over my display. I would like to give them a different look if I can, and giving them these heads that were in a way later episode. Again, I think it's another season 7 episode, I could be wrong, and they definitely had the jackets and stuff in that outfit, but just displaying them with these head sculpts would be cool enough for me, so hopefully that's something I can make happen. And I usually don't talk about accessories too much in these videos, but these guys all do come with like all these side characters, and again, not really ones that I remember from any episodes. I have no idea where this giant butthole puppet came from. Same with this fish, don't really remember where this fish came from. There's so many different episodes with random aliens, and I'm assuming this is another one. I feel like I remember seeing this one. I think he has like telekinetic powers or psychic powers or something. Maybe I'm completely wrong in here. Like I said, I am not an absolute expert on the cartoon. I know all the episodes, I know very well, but outside of that, the other ones I could not tell you a whole lot about. I've just watched them passively as an adult and don't remember much of them from being a kid at all. I do really like this little Gorgonzola doll. It is really cool, but like most accessories, it's just gonna go in a plastic bag and in a bin and stay there for the rest of its life. This is the set that I'm actually probably the most excited about that's came out in the last year. So as you just saw, I have 3 other sets of turtles that are all exactly the same, and then we have the original versions that came out that I have the style guide in. So essentially I have 4 sets of regular turtles, and yeah, there's some soft goods to mix it up and stuff like that, but these are actually a lot different compared to those other turtles, so I was really excited about that. The head sculpts are definitely just the first thing that set them apart. They just have like way more like expression and attitude to them, and I really like these head sculpts. I wish they would have had different ones for all the turtles, or at least mixed them up a little bit more to where the 3 don't all have the same exact head sculpt. That's a little lazy. I don't mind that their shoes are all just color swaps. I like those tennis shoes anyway. I always think it's fun when turtles wear shoes. I don't know why. When I was a kid, I never wanted to wear my shoes because turtles didn't wear shoes. My grandma will tell me all about that pretty much every time I talk to her. But as an adult, I do think it's really fun when they're wearing tennis shoes. I feel like a lot of people's complaints, in mine as well, is the jackets aren't all the exact color we wanted them to be. And the thing is, these colors are all technically accurate, just not to the episode we all think of when we think of this outfit. These are the colors the jackets are in the first Usagi episode, and I feel like that's why it's so easy to forget, because I always remember that as the Usagi episode, and I honestly forget that they're wearing these almost every time until I watch that episode. It's that season 1 episode that really stands out, where Raph has the white coat, Mikey's is a little bit darker, and Leo's and Donnie's are pretty much that same color. But it's Raph's coat that really makes the biggest difference. I don't know why, but that white coat is just burned into my brain from childhood. Like I said, I watched those same videotapes over and over and over, so I saw season 1 a ton, and I loved it when they showed up in those jackets. I thought they were just super ridiculous and stupid, especially Raph's. That white jacket was just so ridiculous, and I always thought it looked like it had piano keys going around the collar when I was a kid. So even though all the jackets aren't the exact color scheme I wanted, I still really like this set a lot. I know I complained about there not being a lot of original characters earlier, but with this set, it's just a little bit different than just the same re-release molds of the turtles we've been getting. So for me, it just is a little bit more exciting than those other turtles. And outside some tight joints here or there, I really don't have any nitpicks with these turtles themselves. I don't see a lot of sloppy paint on any of them. I'm also not mad that they didn't make the glasses non-removable, because otherwise they'd be flopping all over the place all the time, and I'd always be putting them back on, because glasses just never stay on characters well. I don't even try to put them on my Playmates Genghis Frog. It's just too much hassle. So I'm happy that these guys don't have that problem. Another thing about this pack that was a little bit weird is they didn't really come with a lot of accessories, and like I said, I feel like that's just kind of a theme for the figures that came out in this wave, or whatever you want to call it. The bags of groceries and stuff are really well done, but again, they're nothing I'm ever going to use. And it's really weird that they didn't include any weapons with them, like not even their regular weapons. So again, really not the biggest deal in the world for me, because I probably wouldn't use a lot of those accessories anyway, but I just thought it was weird that there wasn't that many accessories. Like I said earlier, Leo and Donnie's jackets aren't too far off. I feel like Leo's might just be like a little bit more grayish and not solid black. I don't know why, but as far as color scheme goes, I like the way Leo looks the best. I feel like the black jacket and the blue just work really well together. And I think Mikey's jacket might be my favorite of the bunch. I like that it has little spikes on the collar and stuff like that. Like, this is the one jacket that I would say does look kind of punk. Interesting that they call these the punk turtles as well, because I definitely don't think punk when I look at this. The episodes that the alternate head sculpts come from, that episode they actually are dressed a little bit punk. I feel like one of them's actually wearing a vest, not just a leather jacket in it. And I touched on the alternate head sculpts earlier as well, but talking about them in a little bit more detail. With the head sculpts, it's funny they all have like mohawks, and then Michelangelo has like what I think is supposed to be Liberty spikes, but it looks more like just a dead starfish on top of his head. I also like how all the other turtles have like angry faces, but Mikey just looks like he's stoned out of his gourd. I feel like that head sculpt will go really good with that Archie Mondo that's coming out, who also looks super stonery. So depending on how everything works out for my display, I might end up using these for my Pizza Club turtles, but we'll see. Time will tell. You guys will find out whenever I do my next collection tour video. So overall, a very cool set. Like I said, I'm really excited to get these. Do I wish they were the colors from the first season? Yes, but it doesn't really make it or break it for me. Like I said earlier, I was just a lot more excited about these than the Pizza Club turtles. I almost didn't even open up the Pizza Club turtles. So I feel like these guys will just be a little bit more fun to get into the display. So someone from the squad, along with that business suit Casey, will probably end up in my top 10 from this year. So thank you guys for watching. Thank you guys for listening. Thank you guys for all the nice things you said in regards to my last video. You know, I know I beat this horse to death, but I just thank you guys for sticking around even though I'm not putting out a lot of content. You know, once you turn off the machine, it's just really hard to turn it back on, and I'm just having trouble getting back into the flow that I was in before, because I didn't just jump into that flow. It's something that kind of just grew and grew, and like, I don't know, my motivation just kept increasing and increasing, and it's hard to dive back in when I've just been relaxing and chilling and doing whatever I want whenever I want all the time. But this is nothing that I ever plan on giving up. It's something that I'm always going to do, even if it's few and far between. I never got on here with intentions of blowing up or becoming huge. I just wanted to talk about the things I like, and the fact that anybody ever wanted to listen to me talk about this stuff is kind of mind-blowing, and the fact that over 2,000 of you have chose to subscribe to this channel is still just something I have a hard time wrapping my head around. So again, one more time, just thank you guys very much for just being supportive. That's all I got for you in this one, so take it easy, be safe, and I'll catch you guys later. Peace.